right. All right. Welcome back to the HEF podcast. That is the podcast of the Home Education Foundation. The Home Education Foundation was started by the beloved Brenda Dickinson way back in the early 90s, just after securing a victory in the legislature with Representative Daniel Webster and her husband Craig Dickinson, and securing home education rights carved out in Florida statute the way that no other state has really done it, to give parents directly the right to home educate their children of their own and to be enrolled in a separate track all of their own to teach their children as they see fit. And it's a beautiful and wonderful thing, and we're so grateful for all the years that she has put into it. 40 years of Brenda Dickinson being the voice in the Capitol for parents across the state to educate their own children and to be in the leadership position in their homes, to decide curriculum standards, educational standards, and then to launch their children into the world to be formidable, critical thinking citizens to contribute to society. And with a 40-year legacy, we are here at the Home Education Foundation to continue passing on that work. My name is Jason Crawford, and I am the new host. Now, I guess, new host. I've been doing it for a little while, but the torch was officially passed this year, and we're so grateful for all of the work that she's done. And there is someone here also working as that voice. And also, just a reminder, as a method of thanks, I guess, for parents across the state of Florida, we did our annual fundraiser in August this year, and the Parents for the Free State of Florida showed up to a match campaign that was issued by a home education family in the state of Florida. Many people don't know how we're funded, and I will tell you that it is a many hands make light work kind of endeavor, in that parents, families across the state believe in the work that we do and the work that Brenda has done and that we'll continue to do. And they pitch in and they help support the work. And in August, we met the challenge that was issued by a home education family. And we're so grateful for all of the families across the state that showed up. And we want to tell you that every time, which is why we start our podcast this way, so that people know that you matter, your voice matters, and your support matters. We also want to say a special thank you to our top sponsors, Arete, FPEA, Fisher Precious Metals, and TBHC Group, for coming in alongside of us with their support. Without the support of parents in Florida or our top sponsors, we would be flying solo in all of our spare time without support, just doing it and grinding away, gritting and bearing it. But as such, we have your support, and we thank you for being with us. Thank you again for being with us today, Brenda. It's always good to have you. I know it feels weird saying that because I kind of just expect you to always be here. But I know every time you hand me something and go, "This is yours now," this is yours now. I feel that moment of like pushing, and it's just a subtle and gentle reminder that is inevitably the goal. But I'm so grateful each time you're here. Each time you're here with us. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is a special week. It is October 6th. If you're watching, it is October 6th, and the beginning of committees the committees are starting to be put on the calendar and meeting. And so it begins for 2026.
Yes.
We'll be back into it this year. So I kind of want to talk a little bit today. Well, maybe we'll get to it. Maybe we won't. I don't know. But I hope that what our agenda is, kind of what to expect from here. I'd like to start there. What to expect from here. These are committees. So what does this phase look like, Brenda? And then what is next? I'm thinking around the January time. And then kind of maybe after we kind of set the stage of what to expect from this and how it'll work, maybe talk about some of the stuff that we're working on during these sessions or committee meetings and then into session. Where would you like to start?
Well, first, for the people that don't know how much work this takes, we start off with this great big funnel.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of bills being filed. And then they go to committees, and the committees pick and choose which bills are going to be heard. So we reduce the vast number of ones that have been filed, and the committees take up the bills. A lot of times during this particular time, they do, probably not this year because there weren't elections, but in the election years, they do a show and tell about each one of the types of, like what's the responsibilities of the Department of Education and the choice programs. And then they bring up people from the FHSAA to talk about extracurricular activities. So, the first part is kind of like defining what they're looking for and educating the legislators. And then as it progresses through the subcommittees and they get the bills that they're going to tackle during the year, our work really begins with great intensity to check every word, every change that comes through that committee, and hopefully catch anything that is going to be undoing what we already have as far as rights are concerned. And if we have some concerns that we want, that would be the time we'd start contacting committee members and trying to get language that we support put in those bills. So it's a pretty intense time, and they meet about every 2 weeks. During the holidays, they may skip a week, but then session begins in January. So really, it's about a 6-month process every year for those people that are involved with the legislature. And thankfully, I'm passing that responsibility on to Jason, and he's doing a great job. But I think we're going to have, maybe I've heard maybe some issues surrounding the extracurricular activities.
Yep.
And so far, we have not heard there's going to be a bill on the scholarships, although last year there was a lot of proposals being made about how it was going to be funded. And the Senate is just waiting to see what the House is going to do as an initiative for tackling those funding issues. And one of the big issues is the cross checks for students. So that's about what I know so far. What do you have?
Well, so I'll narrow in a little bit. October, this week, I can't remember the exact date. It is Wednesday, I believe, of this week. Let me look at my calendar.
Yeah, I think so.
I do that day by day. Yeah, so Wednesday of this week is the session, or the committees that we're looking to follow, which are student academic success and appropriations for education. Most of the educational oriented committees are meeting during that time. I think some of our key issues that were from last year roll over to this year because a lot of them weren't necessarily addressed. Many of them fell off, so many of them get rolled forward because there are still things that we continue to press for parents to have authority carved out for them in specific and unique ways. The home education instructional programs, we lovingly call them HEIPs because it's much shorter. Those were placed in statute in the PEP statutes whenever it was started because in a very quick way, Brenda was very adamant that home education families, we lovingly call ourselves homeschoolers, but when it comes to statute, we don't do that. But home education families that might be interested in the scholarship would want to use the scholarship in home education ways. And one of those things would be things like co-ops and other programs that are unique methods that home education families use. And they said, okay, well, like, what do we call those? And Brenda said, well, why don't we call them home education instructional programs? because a home education program in statute is something specific. So why don't we call those home education instructional programs? And they said, fine, cool. And they jotted it down, put it in there. And the definition for those lived in the purchasing guide, which was topic of great, I don't want to say volatility. It was of much discussion, I think. And then as we saw entities move in from out of state, smaller programs that want to sell to parents their programming, and seeing that there's not a legal definition for a home education instructional program, they said, well, you can't tell us we're not one. And so they put pressure, levied legal pressure behind the scenes to get the definition changed in the purchasing guide. And in case anyone is wondering whether or not that's accurate or not, I have documentation that shows the timeline. So yes, it is accurate. But some of the key elements in that were that home education instructional programs are when home education families leave their home and seek a community environment in which to collaborate and learn together. And many families participate together. And this is kind of an unknown entity for a lot of the legislature, because they're like, okay, like a tutoring program or like this kind of program. It's like, no. Like families get together and families kind of, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me when I was in kindergarten and we had centers, and you would travel around to the different centers and something different would be there for each one of them. And like your community comes together in a communal way to do something similar. This parent is good at that, so they teach that. This parent is good at that, they teach that. And they kind of rotate, and everybody pitches in some way. The parents don't abdicate over the teaching to some other program, as some of these entities from out of state are doing, where we drop our kids off and leave them. So this was very important to us, but that definition seems to go missing. And since it wasn't in statute, we're looking to carve that out in statute to protect the ways that home education families would use a home education scholarship. So that's on our radar. That language is very specific. If you're curious about what it is, I'm not really wanting to share the exact language, because it's one of those things where it always gets workshopped and it always gets tweaked as it goes. But you can check out the bills that we ran this last session. One of them was HB 1565, if you are curious about that. Nothing has been filed this year yet, so there's no guarantee, but that is one of our initiatives. It's key and it's important, because our goal is to protect, one, parents' rights, and two, the legacy of home education. The more that we blur the line between schooling type options and schools, or programs that look like schools, or entities that look like schools, and we call them homeschooling, we run the risk of blurring that line and just being lumped in with someone else coming in and telling us what our curriculums can be, someone else coming in and telling us what our standards have to be, someone else coming in and telling us what our tests have to be. And as a parent, you have the authority for all of that, and we fight to protect that. This is one of the lines that we're drawing that matters to us, that protects that. So that's something key that's on our list. Did you want to say something? Go ahead.
I want to say that there are, as you've said, other programs coming in where they really look more like tutoring programs, or they look like mini private schools, and they're masquerading as home education programs. And the big difference is, in a home education instructional program, parents are in charge.
That's right.
They customize the education for each one of their children.
Yes.
In the other programs that are coming in, somebody else defines the curriculum and what the child will take, and the parent assists the child in homework or whatever they have the parents doing, but the parents aren't really in charge. And so to me, that's the big difference, is who's in charge of the program and what does it, look like? Is it a drop-off program, as you said, or is it something that parents are involved in the real education of their children?
Yeah. And there's a very real, so I always say, I echo what someone else said. It's not my saying, but politics is downstream of culture, meaning the culture and the way that we do things drives the policies that go into effect or get pushed forward. And as the culture is shifting from the money, the question of what does a policy look like is up for grabs. So that's where we're very careful to say, hey, this is the legacy of these home education learning environments, and this is what they look like, and try to give them descriptors. Delene Howell is in our comments, and she says ours is at a church. There's approximately 25 families, and we all volunteer to teach a class to each other's kids. We do everything from A to Z. There are no teachers, quote unquote teachers, except us parents. No lunch staff, no cleaning staff, etc. It's all us. We all pay an amount each for supplies and needed things to do the classes. Thank you. Well, thank you, Delene, for stating that. That is, you're right on the money. And this is because homeschooling, quote unquote, and school choice has blown up so much. What is known about homeschooling historically is very small. Like, you're talking about 2% of the population nationwide, blew up into 6, maybe 8% now. In the state of Florida, it was about 4%, and now it's somewhere between 6 and 8%, or maybe 10 if you, depending on how you count PEP and the scholarship. You know, that some of those numbers don't get categorized in the kind of right way. So the net number is kind of a range, so to speak. But it's a small percentage of the population. That's the point. And what's really, really, truly understood and known about it is very small. But what is known and predominantly guides the decision making is, well, if you're doing school and the experts say school looks like this and functions like this, well, then you must be doing something like this, or you're doing it wrong. So obviously you would need the money for these things and these things and these things. And that's where we have to kind of push back and educate and have conversations and really find time with them to go, hey, yeah, but look at this program. This is actually a sample. Now, I'll direct your attention to something that we haven't talked about in a long time. And that is something on our website. It's called the Tell Your Story Project. We haven't talked about this in quite some time, so I'm gonna put it up there on the screen so you can see it, and then kind of talk about it for a brief moment. The Tell Your Story Project is a project where you can go and upload a video, less than 60 seconds, please. We're looking for shorts on this one, but you can tell what homeschooling looks like for you. Tell what home education looks like for you. You don't have to have a scholarship to participate in this. The goal of this project is actually to generate awareness and educate those who aren't known. There's not a lot that's known about homeschooling, and everybody who was a TikTok influencer thinks that because they just started with their 5-year-old for the first time ever, they suddenly know how it all works. And yeah, I'm not trying to dig at those, but there's a 40-year history of people like Brenda and others who have fought through fear of hiding children in closets to have time and effort and energy and rights to educate them themselves. And a very serious tone goes to that when I say that the legacy and the traditions of homeschooling families can be known. And if you're brand new to it, maybe echo the voices, maybe spend some time echoing the voices of those who have been there and done it for the 15 to 20 years. I would love to hear from moms and dads. Dads, I want to talk to you. I want to hear from you of how you graduated your kids and what you decided to do. Did you go down technical and career? Did your kid go to college? What did it look like for you? What did it mean for you? What was the impact that you aimed for? And did you achieve it? Just give us a 60-second, hey, here's what homeschooling looked like for us. Here was the challenges we faced when we got, and here's how my kids launched now. There's nobody, no media is out there putting out good faith articles on homeschoolers because they have a vested interest in the machine continuing to run and pointing people to this big location that they dump billions of dollars into. Let your tiny voice be heard. Speak up. Make your video. You matter to us, and we'll make sure you matter to them as we take your voice and send it on up. Please participate in this project. Please take your video. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be epic, but you can give it to your kid and give them extracurricular credit for helping you storyboard it and put it together if you like, and hold the camera and teach them how to upload it. Make it a project even in your home. But please help us, because there's a vast gap in knowledge. And I don't think that's really anybody's fault. There's no one to blame here. It's just a matter of we enjoy being left to ourselves to teach our kids the way we want to teach them and to move on in life. And that's good. That's good. But we have to have a voice too. And we have to speak up and protect those things. So please take your video and please upload it. We'll put it to good use. It's very important to us that your voice be heard.
It's also important, and this is the right time of year to do it, where the legislators are thinking about bills, but they still have some time in their home district,
Yes.
to invite them to one of your days,
Yes.
where they come and see what a home education instructional program is. It's very helpful if they can see the difference between a teacher-led program using a curriculum that's a canned curriculum, but they're basically keeping your children in their home all day long.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very different picture, but they can't grasp it unless they see what's going on. So Delene, call your legislators and invite them over to see what's going on in a home educational program.
Yes, absolutely.
Instructional.
Absolutely. I will say that we the extracurriculars, so moving away from scholarships for a moment and into extracurriculars, we have still had some pushback in extracurriculars, specifically in areas where the updated language did not cover people who live on a county line. And they choose a school through open enrollment that's outside of their county line. Previously, the way that worked in 1006.15 is that as a parent, you could choose a school you were zoned for, a school you were not zoned for, as long as you went through the open enrollment portal, and then a school, a private school, if they would make an agreement with you. And the school you're not zoned for was covered in both inside district and outside district through that reference to 1002.31. And I know I'm being nerdy and just throwing a bunch of code out there, but what that impacted was the open enrollment portal. They would close out schools due to quote unquote capacity, saying that because the school was at capacity for academics, you could not play sports there. The Constitution, and I argued with them intensely over this, the Constitution very specifically states that extracurriculars are not included in capacity at all. And we followed that line from the Constitution down to the statutes, down to the reference point, and then back to 1006. And we found agreement eventually with the leadership at the DOE, but we did not find agreement with the districts on a whole. So what we ended up doing was fighting to change at least the statute with the help of Senator Simon to update at least those within a district could choose any school within that district to play. So this isn't how it's stated in the statute, but effectively the end result is that you're now zoned for any school in the district in which you reside to play sports. There is changes coming to that statute, or there are planned changes coming to that statute. I have not been given the specific language over what those are, but I have been given the direction and the tone of what those changes would be, and that is the idea that no one is given special treatment, that public school students, private school students, and quote-unquote homeschool students are all given equal treatment. And there were some very interesting brainstorming sessions about what that might look like and what the language would need to look like. And so I can't share any of that with you, but I can share with you the direction and the interest that is something that is a topic that we'll be helping out with this year. If the language doesn't center on clearing up the capacity issue, I would still like to address that in some method. Something that isn't in a specific statute that we're concerned over language, but that is a growing issue that we've seen showing up is with the school board meetings that we've seen find their way into the newspapers, or just the videos of the meetings are public record and people have sent some of them to us. There's a growing us versus them mentality that is, well, I don't know if it's growing, it's been there, now it's being shed a light on, that the superintendent and the school board's authority versus parents' authority are clashing. There is a line of statute in the scholarship program that we're keeping an eye on. There's a line in the statute that does not exist for parents, let me put it this way, that does exist for private schools. And so I think this is really, really important to point out. So I have the statute up. It's 1002.395. And it's right here under findings and purpose, section 1, subsection C. And it says the purpose of this section is not to prescribe standards or curriculum for participating private schools. A participating private school retains the authority to determine its own standards and curriculum. I think that parents need this carved out in both this statute and the statute for FESUA. Any of the scholarship where home education families are participating needs this carved out for them, not just for private schools, but parents' authority over their own standards to determine their own standards and curriculum. Is very important to me. There is something similar to this that's in the home education statute in and of itself, but I think that for PEP students where they are given the same flexibilities and opportunities in statute as home education students, but there's a very narrow reference point of what that is. I want to make sure that parents in this scholarship program have a carved out and expressly stated right to determine their own standards and curriculum. So that is very important to me, and to me that is a piece of what we're working on that I don't mind sharing the language and intent with you, because I think it's just fundamental to the entire purpose and mission of the Home Education Foundation. In terms of how that impacts home education families with the us versus them issue, I have, it's not a warning, but it's an awareness. I'd like to call awareness to something that's very important, is I've heard a lot of parents, I even got a message from a parent who said they emailed the governor's office and said that they wanted to add certain academic classes to the Brenda Dickinson Act, which governs extracurriculars, not academics. They wanted to ensure that public schools were forced to offer certain classes to parents if they asked for them in the district. And I have to draw awareness to the idea that if you give them a responsibility and a duty, you're also giving them permission and authority. So we must be very careful. When we're seeking to force a system and a program to do things a specific way, as it's very easy to look at that and go, okay, cool. If the schools are forced to teach you a math class and they cannot offer it to you or decline to offer it, if they're not left alone to engage with you, that they must do it, then they can say, hey, why do we have to teach them but not get any count for them when it comes to testing, scoring? Why don't we get credit for them? If we have to teach them, why don't we also get credit for them? Shouldn't they have to be tested with us? And they only get tested on one subject, but we're not sure they're getting a quote unquote real education. Couldn't we say that they're not getting a real education, and shouldn't they also have to take other classes with us? And then the rabbit trail of authority that parents have of their own standards deteriorates. There are so many options for you as a parent. Mr. D Math, by the way, I'll plug him here. He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. His program has a long-standing history of effectiveness. If you don't know that there are other options than a public school from which to gain a very valid and effective piece your educational path together, you can. And it's there. It's there. There are so many programs. FLVS exists. If you need a program and you want a class, you can take that class anywhere while you still are a homeschool student on the go doing your thing. There are so many options that we don't need to resort to forcing the public schools to give it or demand that of them. And I think it's very important that we keep the home education statutes a bright line for parental authority that is the ultimate do-it-yourself of education, the ultimate DIY in education. So I would love to keep that clean and clear. Brenda, you look like you want to say something.
I was just going to say that you mentioned FLVS. That is a public school. Mm-hmm. And if a parent is interested in taking a public school class, mm-hmm. They have wide arms open for home education families and PEP students. They were one of the first, if they were the first, that figured out a way to take the money for a PEP class. So they're very willing to help you in any of the courses that they have. And I think that parents need to realize that there are a whole volume about this thick of laws pertaining to schools. And once you start forcing in a classroom, the school districts have to limit certain classes, math would be one of them, to a certain number of students. So when you start forcing them to do those things, does that mean they have to create a whole new classroom because your student is the one that breaks that number? And one of the reasons we started FLVS is to create an option from the school district. So, and parents may think, well, they're going to be isolated. Well, no, not really. They're online. It's no different than gaming with the people that you don't know or don't live in the same town. You're just discussing academic subjects, and you have teachers and you have clubs and ways to communicate with your peers. So, I think that instead of forcing public schools to do things, I think we need to, as you've said, look at the other options that are out there for our students. And PEP parents have money to pay. Home education students get FLVS classes free of charge.
Well, and if parents are wanting in-person programs, that is the point of HEIPs. Those have existed for decades, co-ops and other gatherings of parents like what Delene was describing, for socialization or just to have the support of a community around you while you're doing certain subjects. So like you were both saying, there are just already so many options. It doesn't make sense to try to strong arm the public schools into being required to offer classes.
And PEP students have money to pay for HEIP classes. So that's an advantage that PEP parents have that other home education families have to come out of pocket for those.
Yeah, a lot of them, though, like I've been part of co-ops in the past that were very low cost and affordable. So you can find those even if you're not on PEP. Yeah. You can find options.
A shout out to the one in Sarasota that we spoke to this week. It's interesting that you say that because sitting where we sit, we get a lot of information tossed our way about programs and costs of this program, costs of that program, especially with the scholarship. Everybody's focused in on that. And I will say, a lot of people are saying like, oh, the cost of things blew up dramatically. Not necessarily. There's programs like the one in Sarasota. I knew right away when I started talking to this program leader that they were plugged into the legacy of homeschoolers because their prices were so bare bones. Their prices were so low and so bare bones that you could tell they're scraping by, they're sharing paintbrushes, they're, you know what I mean? Like that homeschool mentality is reflected in their pricing. If somebody comes to you and says, "Oh, $3,200 for an accreditation and $700 for the curriculum and another $7,000 for this," don't worry, scholarship will cover it. You'll only have to come out of pocket for the other $3,000. It's like, wait a minute, slow down, slow down, slow down. These are people who are new to home education, not traditional. And I will tell you, you may not know that they're there, but you got to dig out. You got to reach out, visit around, visit some churches, ask if people are homeschooling, find out where they're hanging out. Because, hey, we're like herding cats. We like to be left alone to do our own thing. So we're going to be a little hard to find. But the programs that cost a lot, those are, quite frankly, they're not necessarily on the track. I do think some of the programs like hers might need to charge a little bit more just so they can not be starved for leasing a space. You know, like they might have to pitch in a little bit more to do that, because leasing prices are challenging. And there's a lot of factors going on. I'm not trying to tell you how to run your co-op, so I want to be very careful of that. But as a parent looking to also be a consumer and maybe participate in this or maybe participate in that, they're out there. The ones, the complaint that all of them got so expensive is invalid, because the ones who are grabbing at the money, sure, but the legit ones aren't. They're out there still doing the thing. And it's a blessing, and your scholarship goes a lot farther when you are judiciously spending it, wisely spending it. So they're there. I like to pivot a little bit, unless, Brenda, you had something to follow up on that with.
Well, it's kind of a deep discussion, and maybe it's today, but if somebody is telling you have to have accreditation for your program, be sure you know who that accrediting association is, and if they're recognized by colleges and universities, because there are a lot of people out there creating programs. And I've watched one program, accreditation program. They have been at it for probably 25 years to gain recognition with colleges and universities, and even with the state, because they wanted VPK money for their schools. They started off being crediting program for, I'm going to call them umbrella schools, even though there's no such thing in law, but that's what they're familiarly called. And they were pushing accreditation because they wanted to make an accrediting association. But that's a territory that is very detailed, and a lot of the accreditation, when they do it for private schools, they come in and count the books in the library and such. You know, what kind of space do you have for each child and stuff like that? Is that really important for education? It's not important for home education. And there is a huge track record for parents who are being put in a box and made to feel like home education doesn't work. Home ed students get into college without any barriers for the most part. I mean, if you're going to Harvard or Yale, you might, because those schools aren't looking for conservative students. You know, it's a whole different thing whether your child is educated. The main thing they're going to look at are SAT, ACT scores. They're going to look at, what has your child been doing while they're in high school? Have you done any kind of internships or volunteer programs? What have you started on your own? They want a different kind of student generally than one that just checks off all of the courses. And if they don't recognize the accrediting association that you just spent $3,000 for, well, you've been hoodwinked. And that's that you're talking about in so many of these predatory programs, we're not trying to stop any parent from choosing the kind of program that
Yes.
they want, but we really want to protect parents from being lied to.
Yeah.
And somebody wants to make money.
Yeah, and I think exactly. I think I had a personal conversation with someone over the weekend in which we were having a disagreement, and this person pulled out their credentials and their masters in this and their paper that says they're that, and all of these things which weren't even relevant to the conversation. But as a matter of posturing credibility with a piece of paper, they want to be recognized as an expert. And at the end of the day, if you're getting good results, then lather, rinse, repeat. And if you're not, don't let someone with a piece of paper who's not getting those results lead you or tell you. There's this problem in our culture with the age of the expert, or the follow the experts mentality. And I think there are some times where somebody presents an argument and I don't know, but they seem to know. And as I check, they're pretty much right. And maybe they know some things I don't know. And I have a choice to make about how and if and when I follow their lead. But handing over leadership to someone without thought, just because they hold a piece of paper or they say they have a piece of paper from this place or that place or otherwise, I don't get to blame them when it doesn't work in my life, because they had a piece of paper and I trusted them. It's very important that we think for ourselves and we act for ourselves, and we teach our children in our education to do that. And I encourage all parents, you have the right to do that, and you should express that right. Absolutely. And go ahead.
I was just going to throw in, and this kind of changes the discussion
Mm-hmm.
in a different direction, but I sent to you over the weekend a clip out of a social media thing that I check every now and then. And parents need to know the trends and what's real, because this particular person was trying to get other people on the social media to help him find a job.
Mm.
He graduated with a degree in IT from FSU,
Yeah.
and he couldn't find a job.
I'm-
And they're asking for industry certifications, because that really tells what you know. The programs at a college are not all of that current, and maybe they're not what the industry is looking for. But you know, we have to go through this every so often with parents. It's like we're pushing our child for a college degree. We're going to spend $40,000 to get this piece of paper, but it's not even the right piece of paper
Yeah.
that the industry wants. And so do research, look into those kinds of things, because I feel so sorry for this person that he's done his due. He graduated with a piece of paper and now can't find a job. He's still got to go back and get industry certifications.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I was going to comment on what Jason said about looking at results. If there's a field your child wants to go into, it makes more sense to find someone who is successful in that field and ask them, what are they currently looking for?
Yes.
What am I going to need? Rather than just following some default path to a college degree. What is the industry currently wanting? What do I need to do? And path that out from high school, and you have a really good shot at success.
Yes.
And I was going to say the same thing with, just home education in general. There's a 40-year history of it in Florida. Look at the parents who have done it successfully and whose kids are thriving, and ask them, what is your advice? Do I need this accreditation? Do I need this other thing? Because they have the results that you are wanting to have for your kids. So instead of listening to these new people that are coming in from out of state telling you need all these things, there's a wealth of wisdom and experience for the people who have walked this already, that you can turn to them and say, how did you get your kid there? Like, who do I need to talk to? What do I need to do? And so I just think, yeah, be cautious who you're taking your advice from and the pressure that you're allowing to be put on you from these outside forces.
I want
Now,
to.
there's
Oh, go ahead.
things that do need a degree,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not saying don't go to college. We're just saying be sure you check, like Crystal said, great, with somebody that's in the industry. What is the industry looking for?
Yes. Yes. The ultimate end is, where do you want your kids in the next 10 years, or where do they want to end up in the next 10 years, and how do you get on that track? Somebody might be selling you a piece of paper, but this conversation has, and you're right, it may not be able to be dived into with great depth at the moment, but it is a stone's throw away from the same conversation but with a different outcome. And that is that the age of the expert and the empowerment of experts as decision makers over the plebs, the normal people who don't know any better. Parents, how could you be expected to teach your kids? You don't have a teaching certificate. You didn't go to college and graduate as a teacher. How do you know how to teach your own kids to think or to read? I think it's very important. I want to share with you something that a friend sent me literally just before we got on the podcast today. And so I texted it to myself because I thought, man, wow. So this is a news article that was shared. The author here is an education editor, Nicola Woolcock, and I don't know them, and I don't know this publication, but it begins here and says, universities are teaching English literature students how to concentrate long enough to read lengthy novels.
Wow.
This is university teaching. Literature degrees include lessons in reading a book, is the title of the article. Sure. You're a parent. You don't know anything. The age of the expert is upon us, and only people who have been to classes like that could ever teach their children to read, and without one, you're doomed. Listen, we are not insects. We're humans. We were built to be comprehensive, to be formidable, to be able to entertain multiple directions and to adapt. Insects are born with an ingrained and built-in division of labor. They are built in with a task to be a drone or a queen, to be a scout, or there are very specific things. They were literally born into niche things. This is not human. To be a human is to be formidable and comprehensive and to think for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And you should never apologize for exercising your God-given authority to lead your own family and to set standards for your own family, regardless of what the world around you wants to cram down your throat under the guise of experts know better. And this is very important. This is very important because we discussed this on a previous podcast, but there are organizations that are intentionally trying to get bills started with that exact mentality in mind, that children are not safe with their parents. Parents don't know anything. That the experts should only be the ones that are allowed, and experts should have regular check-ins where parents have to check in with the experts to make sure that they are, in fact, doing all the things that they should be doing. This is an no for all of us here at the Home Education Foundation. And it is not dismantled necessarily in policy and legislature. It's dismantled in culture. It's dismantled when we all stand up and we all exercise our voice together and we all say, no, we are the parents. That is what's important. That is all. And we stand on that. Experts come and go, and a lot of them end up being wrong because they're human, and humans make mistakes. And that is just human. So staying formidable, staying adaptable, and staying a critical thinker is key. It's all educational.
Let me tell you an example. When my children, my oldest was going into 9th grade, and I wanted to make sure they were going to be good writers. Of course, we had no roadmaps back then. Everything was figured out yourself. So I called 3 college professors that taught writing. And I said, I want to make sure I do the right thing by my children in teaching them how to be good writers. Every one of them said, we've seen over the years that the most avid readers are our best writers. So have them read, read, read. That's contrary to what you just said, because kids that are not reading in a home education program are missing an education. They learn how to punctuate. They learn grammar. It was interesting because my daughter, who's an outstanding writer, was reading a book one time from the library, and she says, "This is an awful writer." I said, "Well, how do you know?" She's in 7th grade, and she's already critiquing the writing style and the ability of the writers, contrary to whatever the book was about. She said, I'm going to give her one more chapter. If it doesn't get better, I'm not going to read this book. So those are the kind of thinkers that you want. And the way you do that is you just immerse. What's the right word? Immerse, thank you. Immerse them into that subject area, and they figure it out.
Yes.
That's how kids are.
I want to take a
moment. Well, interesting.
Hang on. Wait. Just let me do this, because I want to take a moment and I want to brag on my wife. I don't do this a lot. And maybe I should.
You should.
But she is herself a great writer, and she has won awards, and a lot of people don't know this. She's actually written stories that have had millions and millions of readers, which is cool. And she's participated in these workshop groups across the country with other writers. And there is another writer that in one of those groups she worked with, and these people don't have credentials and papers and masters over here and this and great pieces of paper all over to tell everyone they're experts. Listen to them. Their writing must be good. No, they enter contests. They do the grunt work. They give their reading and their stories to each other, and they critique them together, and they poke holes in each other's ideas, and they work together, and they produce results. One of the results that my wife got was this recent writing conference that we went at. You cleaned house with awards. What did you get? Like 4 awards?
I did. It was actually kind of
amazing.
Yeah, it took me by surprise. I entered in five or six different categories, and I placed in all but one of them. So I was getting called. I would sit down after getting an award and then get called right back up. Mm-hmm. It was really interesting. And what made it even cooler was that some members of my writing group that he's talking about had traveled to be at the same conference. And several of them were also sweeping the awards. So it was an interesting testament mm-hmm. to how it really does work.
Yes.
To kind of immerse yourself in that process of critiquing and reading, and it does work.
Because many of those writers didn't come from a background with degrees and this telling me that I'm good at this and telling me that I'm good at this. They came from one was a sheriff out of Texas. There are people with walks of life, and then they get together and they hone the skill of writing, and later in life they become writers, or they do this. What was interesting, though, another pivot, is there was another person who was also sweeping categories, winning. And I think she won a different award at another ceremony. Crystal, you'd have to tell me which one it was, because I don't remember. But as it turns out, you want to know something funny? She was a homeschooler. She was a teenage...
Oh, the girl I was talking to this weekend in our Zoom meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a 19-year-old girl. I didn't realize she was homeschooled until I said something about it in the call, and she private messaged me and was like, "I love that you're a homeschool mom. I was homeschooled." Yep. But at the age of 18, she won Seattle WorldCon, which is like a nationwide contest for 18 and under, like teenage writers.
But did she have a writing degree?
And she doesn't even, she was still in high school.
Well, how is she
Um,
smart enough to do any of that if she didn't have a piece of
yeah, I
paper
was
telling
really
everybody she
excited.
was?
And that's not the only, she placed as a finalist in an international contest that I have entered multiple times, and it is difficult to place in that
Yep.
contest. I mean, there are tens of thousands of entries from across the world every quarter.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was really excited to learn that she was homeschooled because she, you know, I know that she didn't go to some fancy writing school. She was just, she read. One of the things I was going to say about Brenda was that's also, immersion is also the way you learn a language, like a foreign language. Like immersion is a very well-known technique for learning something. And that in the writing world that I'm a part of, it's just a fact that you have to read to be a good writer. Like you have to read in the genre you're writing in and other genres to like round out your experience. You have to read.
I don't know. I think you need to learn how to walk down a hallway on the right hand side and to raise your hand and put your quiet finger up and to stand in line quietly and to not ask questions and then get a piece of paper that tells you you're good at things. And then and only then can you go on in life to be good at things. I think.
Well, just one final point on this. I do have a piece of paper. I have a degree in fiction writing. And I was still a terrible writer when I got that piece of paper. It was the practice and the mentorship and the workshops and the just doing it, immersing in it and building the skill that brought me to the point that I can enter a contest and place in it. Like,
Did your degree
it wasn't the piece of paper.
Did your degree open any doors for you?
No, I didn't work. I tried. I applied for lots of jobs in my field as an editor or proofreader, all kinds of things. I could never get a job with that.
Did anyone care that you had a writing degree?
Not at all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not what we're sold, but that is what we're told when we go to apply. And that's the thing.
Right.
Listen, I'm not poo-pooing on universities or colleges. There are some great people with great hearts in some of those fields, pushing and researching and trying to pass on knowledge, and that's admirable. Okay, but they're not your kids. Your kids are the ones you send to certain places to learn this or that or the other, and only for the purpose of getting them on and launched in life to be successful. If you can find that way, just do it. Chart the map and do it. And I'll pivot with this because I need to plug it. Our Discord server is there. And there are all kinds of opportunities in the Discord server that we are looking for. If you're a parent and you have found that alternate path and your kids have made great success, please come share your stories with us. Please come share your experience with us and some of those connections, because we endeavor as a part of our mission with HEF Connect, our nonprofit, to connect home education families with those alternative paths to success in life and to help each other identify them and explore them and connect with them. So we call it HEF Connect. So come into our Discord and connect. Meet people. There are veterans all throughout the Discord server who have 20 years experience and would love to be bored and sit down and be still and not be bored, but like disperse some of their wisdom that they've acquired. Brenda, I had a wonderful conversation with just such a person that you gave me her contact information, and I invited her to come on to the podcast. So maybe in the coming weeks, I'll have her and you kind of talk about some of those things and share together some of your walks and experiences. It's really important. So the Discord community is there. It is also the place where we will be sharing first our legislative agenda and our legislative efforts. We'll be keeping parents up to date and up to speed with all of that in our Discord first. We are working on a content strategy for our website to get things up. If you are a high school student and you are looking to volunteer, there are two ways that you can help us. In the Discord, we actually have a new club for students that we've started, which is centered on debate It's rhetoric, logic, reasoning, policy, those types of things. So you can help by helping us get involved there, posting reading lists and all kinds of other things like that, doing research. What we'll do is share local issues each month and let you guys debate over them and talk about them and research them. But then also another avenue of volunteering is while we are looking for people to help us with our content strategy, sometimes we need a good article writer. So if you are good at writing and you want to volunteer some of your time, we can give you the prompts and we can give you the research tools, and then we can see what you put together and feature one of your articles on our blog. Sometimes it's easier for me to distill what we're doing into bullet points and then have somebody kind of help flesh that out and then get it posted. So if you're someone who knows how to write and knows how to use a website, there is an opportunity. You can apply at info@flhef.org. It is not a paid internship, but it is volunteer effort and volunteer hours that you can count for bright futures. Absolutely. So if you're interested, there are plenty of ways to get involved. There are others too, but right now those are the only ones I'm mentioning. So we're out of time and it's brief. If you haven't done so yet, please go on to Discord and set up a free account. I remind you that this is not something that we charge for. We do not have a membership that this is hidden behind. This is open to all parents and students in the free state of Florida who are interested in home education issues. So, Brenda, it's time for us to close out the day.
Yes, and I want to say that Crystal needs to share how people can find her books.
Oh,
okay.
All right.
You can go to ccrawfordwriting.com, like the letter C, my first name, crawfordwriting.com. And all the information about my books is there if you're interested. I write clean young adult fiction, mostly fantasy, but it's all clean and age appropriate for teens because there's a shocking lack of that in the bookstores. So, yeah, if you have any more questions about it, you can contact me through that website.
Yes. Well, thank you, Brenda. That was sweet. Is there anything else you would like to say to close out today's podcast?
No, I think that one of the most important things that people can help us with is letting us know where there are some good internships for kids to pursue, whether they're interested in a certain area for their career. And if you have, if your husband or wife runs a business that you would accept home education students in, please let us know so we can share it with the community.
Very good. Valid. Well, I think that is going to wrap us up. So I'll do the thing that we usually do and say thank you to our top sponsors, Arete, FPEA, Fisher Precious Metals, TBHC Group. And thank you to parents in the free state of Florida for also being one of our top sponsors. We thank you so much for your time and attention today. We're here being your voice in the Capitol so that your rights to educate your own children as you see fit are protected, and that is what we'll continue to do. We still do not have all of the support that we need, so if you do know someone in your friend group that is not yet supporting us, please reach out to them. It's very simple, flhef.org/support. There are so many options that are conveniently priced to at least do something as a means of support, and it all matters. We thank you very much for your time and attention today, and we'll turn it over back to you to do your thing. I want to give one more shout. I mean, I just need to do this all the time, perhaps, but this wonderful music, intro and outro, is provided by a friend of ours who's a home education dad who believes in the work that we do. And said, we kept getting these copyright, this piece of drums you've used are there, you can't use it. And so he custom put together our own intro and outro music, and I'm very grateful and thankful. So I'll keep saying that and keep mentioning it, because little things like that are how it all comes together to make it happen. So thank you, and happy Monday.